Hello, my beautiful motorheads. It's Annick, and today I am riding the Honda CB650R. In riding this bike, it's made me think of a few things that I want to discuss with you guys, which is, why do we choose the bike that we ride? And are we riding the bike the way that it should be ridden? We're getting the full capabilities out of it, and should that inform what bike that you actually decide to purchase? So today, I'm going to take you on a ride with me, and we are going to discuss this CB650R with the E-clutch. It's a very interesting bike. I'm headed up to a Fair event. The weather is glorious. It's a beautiful fall day, and let's see what this bike is capable of, and let's talk all things motorcycles. But first, let's do a walk around of this bike. So the CB650R with the E-clutch is an inline 4. And it has this absolutely gorgeous 4-into-1 pipe. And I can just say this, that if you were to put a slip-on on this, it would really just make this bike scream. It's a good looking bike. I like it in this gray colorway. Also, it has, which we'll turn on and see, is it's got the beautiful digital display that Honda is moving to with all its motorcycles. At some point during my ride, I also lost my hair tie, so now I got crazy hair for today, and it is what it is. Let's go for a ride, and I want to talk through what it's like to ride an inline 4 versus other styles of bike, like a single cylinder, V-twins, parallel twins, and take it for a ride. All right, so we are on the bike, about to start it up, obviously. It's got this beautiful digital display that's actually quite easy to use. And there's a toggle switch here, which you can use, and this is for the lights. We got the horn, obviously blinkers. So the CBR650R has E-clutch, which stands for electronic clutch. This light here indicates whether or not you are in basically automatic, and you could put the bike into manual no matter when you want by pulling in the clutch that's here. But if you see, it's like loosey-goosey. And in order for me to engage it, I have to pull it in all the way, and then it will override the automatic and become a manual bike. Now, the E-clutch, this is not fully automatic. You still need to shift with the lever down below, but it allows you to shift gears, start and stop without using the clutch if you don't want to, all right? I have to say that it actually, the first day that I rode this bike, I rode it in the rain, so I mostly stayed in manual, but I took this bike out. When I really took it out for its first day, I have to admit that I did some really, what I like to call ugly riding, in that I was really feeling out the bike and not really sure on like how to shift and such, because I'm gonna get going and it'll make more sense. So I can just put it into first without touching the clutch. So watch this, and boom, I'm in first. Now, when I first got this, it took a little getting used to, because it really, the power's right there, wants to go. So as somebody who has only ridden bikes in which you need the clutch, you end up having much more control if I was manually doing this. So it took, when I say part of the ugly riding, it took a few hours to like figure out how to nuance the throttle and let the bike do what it's supposed to do. Kickstand up, let's go. All right, so it's a beautiful day in the fall in the Northeast, which means that basically everyone and their mother is out today driving, and you just need to be aware of the traffic. So I'm going to try to illustrate some of these things as safely as I can with basically weekend traffic. Now, the thing about the E-clutch is there's different camps of thought on using modern technology or not having some of this modern technology in bikes. And some of the conversations that I get into with people who are seasoned riders is, I don't want any of that newfangled stuff. I just want to be able to ride the bike the way I want to be able to ride the bike. And I want to feel and understand what the bike is doing. I get that. I definitely get that. And the more that I have ridden bikes with DCT or e-clutch or, any type of clutch assistance, the more and more I'm getting sold on it as a component. Now, it's interesting that Honda decided to put this in an Inline 4. And I suspect the reason why is that Inline 4s are quite powerful motorcycles. And we are so fixated with the CC size of a bike that I think, and I always bring this up, it's better to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow. But really these days, what constitutes like a slow bike, right? It's an ongoing conversation. And I wish, I'm trying to develop different ideas behind this, or not ideas, but like different jargon behind this, because I think that we've outgrown as motorcyclists this idea of a small bike versus a big bike. And I'm hoping that during this podcast, in this ride, that I can try to illustrate what I'm trying to get at, because I really think that this is a big conversation to be had within the motorcycling industry. And the way that we look at motorcycling is biased in the way that we've learned how to ride. So if you started on old clunker of bikes, yes, you're going to be definitely more into riding. Okay, so I'm coming to a stop. I'm in second gear. Okay, let me shift back and just talk about something as far as like the e-clutch. So the thing that I really had to have a mind shift over is believing that this bike is going to do what it's supposed to do. So when I ride regular manual motorcycles, I often don't use the clutch to upshift, and that's a pretty easy thing to do. Let me focus on riding here through the traffic. People just don't pay attention, and you gotta focus on being a defensive rider all the time. So let's just get through here. I'm also very horn happy these days, and I will at liberty honk the horn to pretty much everyone to get people's attention that they are not focused, because as you know, as soon as you come to a stop sign, people are looking down at their phones and not at what's going on around them. And it's a very unfortunate thing, but it is just where we're at with riding, right? So let's talk about this. The e-clutch allows you to shift without pulling in the clutch. There are sensors that are continually monitoring your speed, what gear you're in, and how you're riding. It's making adjustments on the fly for you to be able to shift without using the clutch. It's a beautiful thing. It's also incredibly impressive. Now, what has taken me some time is to get over the fear that if I downshift and say I'm going into turn and I have to downshift 2 gears, let's say, that the bike is not going to get all herky-jerky on me, which is what would happen in a scenario if I was manually doing this and I didn't pull in the clutch and I wanted to downshift. So this bike makes you, if you're a seasoned rider or used to riding with a manual clutch, it forces you to have to change your riding style and your mental awareness of how you're riding. Now, the advantage to this, and especially in an Inline 4 that is more powerful and, let's say, harder to ride than a parallel twin, and I'll get into the reasons why for that, is that it allows somebody who has perhaps less experience to be able to ride a bike like this. The one thing that I was surprised about when I went onto the Honda website to just kind of check the stats of the bike and just see, what images and such information they had on the website. Oddly, Honda puts this bike between the SCL 500, which is basically their scrambler, and then their CB 500, which I have to check, but I'm pretty sure that CB 500 is a parallel twin and not an Inline 4. Now, above this SCL, they then have the Hornet 750 Hornet, CB 750 Hornet. That bike, right, on paper, 750 cc's, would seem to be bigger than this bike, which is 650 cc's. But they have 2 different types of motors. That CB 750 Hornet is a parallel twin, and this 650 CB650R is an Inline 4. Now, I'm not going to go into all the science of what makes them significantly different, but I'm going to give you the shortened version of it and say this, that in general, inline 4s are more powerful than a parallel twin. They are also two incredibly different motors, and the way that they deliver power are very different from each other, and therefore the riding experience between those two engines is very, very, very different. Recently, I rode the CB650 Hornet, and I'm hoping to get that bike back so I can do a proper review. I rode it to the Farrow's 2025 event that we put on the meet and ride. Let me tell you, that bike is awesome. It is so easy to ride, and it is indicative of what a parallel twin is like, in that the power delivery on a parallel twin is consistent and even, and it delivers power throughout the RPMs, and therefore is easy to ride, because whether or not I'm riding a parallel twin, if we look here at the dash, and this is showing me my RPMs. So right now I'm at 5,500 RPMs, right? And if I was on a parallel twin, whether I was on the 2 or up to the 12, it would consistently deliver power, which makes it very easy to ride, because you always have power available to you, but also the power as you climb up higher, it's not like it slams on. So it's this nice, smooth riding experience, and it lends itself to very even and controlled throttle experience, okay? Now, here is what I really want to illustrate with the Inline 4, and there's a little bit, I have somebody in front of me, so I'm gonna maybe hold off until I have a little bit more road. Herein lies the whole thing. Now, this is the crazy part, right? So I'm in the E-clutch. Like, typically I would pull in and downshift. Now the bike's telling me, whoop, oh, sorry. My phone. Yeah, thank you. I just lost my phone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I got it. Thanks, man. Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. All right, I guess it's time for a new one. I tried to make it work. Oh goodness, that was, wow, that's really bad. All right, so that also means I'm gonna have to put the set on. Oh man. I'm good, yeah. My phone fell off.
Oh, okay.
Like this?
Yeah.
And now my son is dead, so I you know how it goes. I need directions, but I don't have directions now.
Yeah, that's the top part for the course.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you trying to go?
I'm trying to go up to Alamont. I got about an hour, so I'm just trying to memorize which route I want to go.
All right.
But I'm okay. Thank you for pulling over. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Yep.
Love the paint job on this. Yep. See, nice people ride motorcycles. Nice people ride motorcycles. I'm thankful for that. Thankful for two people stopping. It's never a dull moment, I'll tell you that. Never, ever a dull moment. Whew. A little bit of an adrenaline rush, not the type that I wanted. I have no idea what I was talking about. Now I just got to memorize my way old school and figure out where I'm going, which is okay. I can't be angry about that, but like I said, I am a little bit late. Let's go this way. I believe what I was getting into was the difference between a parallel twin and an inline 4 and power delivery. So, parallel twin has consistent power delivery throughout the RPM range. Now, the difference with the inline 4 is that you start getting into power delivery within a specific power band. And depending on the inline 4, the power band can either be on the very high end, which would put it, like, say, between like 10 to 12, and the red lines there indicate that is redlining an engine. And when you redline an engine, the power drops after, on this bike in particular, the 12,500 RPM. So the power curve would bring it up, and then at a certain point, you're in its like peak zone, you hit the red line and it then starts to drop. Now, power bands on the Inline 4 are shorter than a parallel twin, which has basically, I guess I could say that it has a much longer power band, which would be like say if this was a parallel twin at 2,500 up to like 10,000, okay? Why is this important? Because this is where when you hear people have accidents or that sport bikes are dangerous or, you know, any one of those things, sometimes what happens is that somebody who's inexperienced will get on a bike and they will whack the throttle open, and on an Inline 4, you know, it's fine until you hit that power band, and then all of a sudden the power comes in like gangbusters. So just to give you some indication, right? I'm in fourth gear going about 60, give or take. And I'm only at 5,000 RPMs. I am not within the power range of this bike. Now, if I decided to just ride this bike leisurely and at ease, I would shift up and just be in a higher gear at lower RPMs, and I could ride all day like this. And this is where you get into, are you riding a fast bike slow or a slow bike fast? Well, if I am in fifth gear in 20, I am most certainly riding a fast bike slow. Was this bike designed for this? Not really. Like this bike, I'll tell you, with its pedigree, it does want to scoot. And I'm hoping to illustrate that. But again, bearing the roads are clear and I'm in a safe zone to do that, then I will do that. Getting back to, you know, where people say sport bikes are dangerous and such, is that because the power band is narrow and somebody gets into where they whack the throttle or the powers come on so suddenly that they weren't prepared for it, people get nervous and then they will do something, which is panic. And if you've ridden motorcycles for any length of time, your panic can change. All right, so let's do it here because I got to clear straight. So I'm in third gear going 50, right? Climbing. I could feel it's just starting to be in a power band, and now I'm going to really, and you're going to see how quickly the speed is going to come up. Now this bike, I'm in third gear going 80. And a 650cc bike, right? So now can you understand what I'm saying? That like this is not necessarily a beginner bike. In comparison, obviously, to a leader bike, it is. I'm in the power band and this bike has really come alive. Like this feels really good. Here's the other thing about it being in the power band is that the chassis starts to settle down when this bike is being ridden the way that it should be ridden for its power, which is within the power band. So physically, what ends up happening, what it feels like when you're on the bike, is that the bike is sighing and settling into itself. It's like it has a personality, and it's a beautiful thing. So like right now, it's like, okay. But as soon as I start to bring it on, I can feel it go, all right, now we're talking business. All right, Annick, let's scooty-doo-doo. And that is the exhilarating feeling. That is the feeling that I think people are going after when they ride a motorcycle and are starting to ride at speed. It is that feeling of speed, which trumps the actual speed that's being shown on the speedometer. So if you are riding, you could be going 40 miles per hour, but if it's in that power band, you're going to feel like a superstar. It's the best feeling ever. I don't know if you guys saw the F1 movie with Brad Pitt that just came out. He's the main character, and there's a point where they talk about how in his racing career, look how beautiful that is, in his racing career that he's chasing the feeling of flying. And when they said that in the movie, I was like, yes, that's exactly it. We're chasing that feeling of flying when you're so in sync with the vehicle that you're riding that you feel like you're one and you're so focused and everything feels effortless. It is the most beautiful feeling in the world. And I loved that in that movie, they brought attention to that. I think that that's the feeling that we're all chasing. So here I am riding like I would any bike, but I'm getting into the power band, so this feels so much better. And the bike, like I said, it has settled down, and the chassis is reacting in a way that it's supposed to. Now, again, I'm not going to go into the reason why that happens, There are other people on YouTube that have charts, graphs, and other illustrations that are going to be able to explain it much better than me, and it's going to take way longer than the 30 seconds that I want to devote time to it. So if I, at this point, right, so I'm in the power bands, just starting to be in the power band here, upshift, which on the E-clutch, it drops down. Do you see that? 10,000 RPMs. I'm sorry, 1,000 RPMs. And the bike just, you can even hear it. And I'm not sure with the audio if it's going to pick up the engine sound or the wind sound, or, well, I'll have to find that out in post-production. But you can feel, again, that the bike just, it's like, oh, all right. Now we're like kind of jogging. And I can even go up again. This has 6 gears, by the way. I could go up again, and the bike even becomes more docile, right? Much more docile. And let's go up to 6th gear. Incredibly docile. Like you just feel everything kind of calm down and just settle in. Why is this important? Well, in choosing a bike, you know, we go for aesthetics, and then we go for riding style. So if you want a more leisurely pace of riding, you might look at cruisers. If you want to do some off-road riding, you know, you're gonna look at adventure bikes. And we categorize motorcycles based on what they aesthetically look like and what their performance is. Very important, obviously. But the second thing to that is understanding, how do you ride? And a lot of people don't think about this. They just are, you know, they'll go on an emotional feeling and say, this feels good to me, this does not feel good to me. And there are a lot of beautiful bikes out there that people are like, that thing was like terrible, I hated that bike. And they can't exactly explain why, but sometimes it's up to the fact that the way you need to ride it to make it work in the way that it was specifically designed does not align with your riding style. And that does not necessarily make it a bad bike. It just means that it's just not for you. Years ago, I had a 99 Yamaha R6, and it was also an inline 4. I street fired it out to make it basically look like this, but it didn't come from the factory like that. And I didn't love the bike, and a lot of that had to do with that the power band was in the high range. So I never really felt like I was getting what I wanted out of the bike. It wasn't that fun to ride around town because it didn't really have low-end power. And to really ride that bike the way that it wanted to be ridden, it needed to be in the higher range of power. And I just didn't take to it, and I ended up selling that bike. Although now I kind of question whether or not, if at this point I would actually, with having much more experience, if I would have, you know, kind of loved that bike. But there's been so many changes in the development of design and production on motorcycles that it's like, you know, there's better options. I'll just put it that way. The thing is about deciding on like how to ride what type of engine is that it comes through experience, and until you've actually ridden a bike with that specific engine or setup, it's hard to know whether or not it's something that you're going to take to or not. And a lot of it always goes back to like, what did you start off riding? The first bike I had was a 2-stroke, and that's not necessarily an easy type of engine to ride. Talk about power band. 2-strokes have a very, very, very small and short power band, which makes them difficult to ride and at the same time incredibly fun. And there's all sorts of modern technology that enables 2-strokes to be ridden more easily. Oh God, that's so fun. And I'm just riding in 3rd gear, like this just kind of illustrates, like it's amazing that this bike does what it does, right? Okay, so each engine has its own characteristics that are very different from each other. Again, I'm not gonna go into like what all of that is, but I will say that, you know, part of it is trying to figure out what works for you. Now, if you want a bike that's super easy to ride, parallel twin, absolutely, you know, the way to go. I'm just using that. There's other engines that are equally as nice and easy to ride, but I'm gonna use that as an example because it's easy to ride because there's power delivery throughout, which is what I said earlier. Now, there's different configurations of V-twins that can also be incredibly easy to ride. And then the B part to that is these engines all sound different. And, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, beauty is also in the ear of the listener. I love the way a V-twin sounds, especially on a Ducati or, at one point I had a Honda Hawk. It just sounds so good. And of course, you know, people who ride Harleys, obviously into what that V-twin sounds like. Thumpers, which are single, now they have their advantages, lightweight, power delivery, but based on their engine, they can also buzz a lot. If you get into the ADV riding, singles are often very popular engines that they put into bikes. It can also make the bike super buzzy and cause numbness in your hands and like all sorts of other issues. And that is fine if you're going on a short distance. I'm gonna have to pull, because I lost my phone, I'm gonna have to pull over and look at my directions because I know I'm supposed to go on here, but I don't recall for how long, and I realized that I didn't charge up my helmet, so I don't have Bluetooth and can't listen to the instructions. Oh, I need to get it together. So you can ride any of these motorcycles easily if you decide to not ride them the way that they were intended, or you can choose a motorcycle based on how you intend to ride it and get the full capability out of the bike. So my argument here is that it's considered a mid-range bike. It's not a beginner bike by any means. I don't think so. Although it could be ridden as a beginner bike because the E-clutch allows your shifting and your ability to just ride this much more easily. So perhaps a better way to say this is that maybe this bike would be a great choice for someone who wants one bike that they can grow with throughout their riding career. Even at the point that I'm at, I am very much loving this bike. It is super light and nimble. I have a really, this is me up, and I have a nice reach from my seat. Of course, I'm all the way up onto the tank. That is how I ride every bike because of my height. It is just super nimble. When I do this, it just wants to go through the turns so easily. It's an absolute delight and joy to ride this. A friend of mine who's about 6'3" sat on this bike, and he turned to me and he went, "Is this what you feel like when you ride a Grom?" And he looked proportionally sitting on this bike as to how I look sitting on a Grom. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I think that's a fair a fair statement to be made, that yes, I can see why this feels like a Grom to you. But even a guy at that size, he would feel cramped, which would probably be why he would not want to ride this motorcycle. But power delivery, even at 6'3", and I'm guessing he's probably 260, he could totally ride this bike. I mean, this bike would still deliver power. And of course, he would say, I want to be in a leader bike, and he would be justified in his assessment of that. But it is just, all of this brings up these topics to discuss when you're choosing a bike. Why are you choosing it, and how are you going to ride it? Oh my goodness, this is oh, Annick. 10 miles, take a left, and get onto 312. Okay, 10 miles, take a left. 10 miles, take a left. I mean, I could literally ride this bike all day in third gear. And it's got 6. So imagine if you're on a leader bike, which, let me clarify, is 1,000 cc's or higher. I had a Ducati 999S, and I could stay in first gear and go 80 miles per hour, no problem. It was not that fun to ride. I mean, I absolutely loved the way that bike sounded and how it rode. However, it was a lot of work to ride that bike on the street, and that bike was not designed to be ridden on the street. And by all means, it's sold as a street bike, so of course you should ride it on the street. But I came to decide, and it was a tough decision to sell that bike, that I didn't want to work that hard. I work all week. I think we all do. We work really hard at our jobs, at life, and have to deal with everything that life delivers, whether that's relationships, jobs, money, housing, all of it. When I go out and ride, I want to enjoy myself, and as I get older, I want to just not work as hard when I'm not working. So the driving force for me as far as choosing bikes these days is different than it was 10 years ago. Now, occasionally, I still want to work hard and get on a big bike like that and enjoy myself, but not every weekend. A bike like this, with this Inline 4, is the best of both worlds. This thing has got some real snot and can get up and boogie, and it can take work, and you have to be on top of it, especially when you are going at speed. It's really, really understanding what type of riding that you want. And if you do like the more leisure, enjoyable riding, then by all means, that is what you should focus on and choose your motorcycle for. Which leads me to this. I want to help you find your dream bike, or at the very least, the next bike that you want to include in your collection. Wow. Yep. Welcome to weekend traffic. Hey, Tom, what's up? Oh, look at that. That's a nice surprise. I think I know whose bike this is. Take a look around. It's a good turnout. Welcome to where I edit the Feroce Show. Little sneak peek behind the curtain. I thought after my ride in the review of the CB650R that I was going to have time with the bike to wrap everything up, but the day got away from me and I had to return the bike to Honda, and then after that it just started downpouring rain for the past couple of days, and I got an episode to get out. So I had mentioned that I want to help you pick out your next motorcycle. So here's what I'm proposing. I want you to consider me being your bike bestie, or even bike baddie. I kind of like that maybe a little bit more. It's a work in progress. I'm going to launch a pilot program where the first 5 people to sign up for this will get a 50% discount. And here's what I would like to do. I'd like to get on a call with you and go over all things motorcycle. What kind of bikes you like, what type of riding you like, what kind of experience you have, all of it. And then from there, by the end of the call, which will be about 45 minutes, we will determine and come up with 1 to 3 motorcycles for you to take a look at and pursue seriously. Buying a bike or deciding what you're going to ride or where your next purchase is going to be it takes a lot of work, and sometimes you just want to bounce ideas off of someone who doesn't have skin in the game. As we all know, sometimes our friends are very well-intentioned, but they can lead us along the wrong path based on what their biases are on getting a bike. I'm here to offer a hand in that process and help you with an unbiased opinion to find your next bike. As you know, I get to test out a lot of motorcycles and makes. I also have access to a lot of people within the industry that allow me to get some inside information about different makes, marks, models, all of it. So I would like to share that knowledge with you and also have the opportunity to work more closely with somebody to get what you want. There will be a link below this podcast where you can sign up. And like I said, the first 5 people to sign up will get 50% off. If you have any questions, you can email me info@liveferoce.com. That will also be in the show notes. And if you have any questions in general about anything, shoot me an email. So my question to you, and I would love to hear from you in the comments, is what engine type do you prefer the most when riding? Have you ever thought about it? Is it something you even care about? Let me know. If you like what you have seen or heard, please like and subscribe. It is the best way that you can support this show and spread the message that Feroce exists. And if you'd really like to go the extra mile, you can donate here at Buy Me a Coffee. As always, ride smart. Ciao.